walking to Juliet's place. Normally there's a big line, but not today because it's technically closed.
Greetings from the Simulacrum, where we explore worlds within worlds all around the world. Today, we are talking about Juliet's balcony, which is located in Verona, Italy. Each year, millions of tourists come to Verona, Italy, and many of them visit the fabled Casa di Giulietta, a 13th century house adorned with a balcony that supposedly belonged to Shakespeare's Juliet. They leave notes on the courtyard walls, take selfies beside a bronze Juliet, and reenact declarations of love. But here's the thing, Juliet was never real. The house belonged to the Del Capello family, not the Capulets, and the balcony was added in the 20th century after the city of Verona bought the house in 1905. And throughout the 1930s, began to renovate it to try to promote more tourism to the city. In fact, Shakespeare's original play never included a balcony at all. The now iconic balcony scene was simply a moment of dialogue written as Juliet was speaking from a window. The architectural detail of a balcony was added later by theatrical productions and adaptations, becoming retroactively essential to the way we imagine the scene. What the Casa di Giulietta represents is not historical accuracy, but the afterlife of a myth continually reproduced through media. Its popularity is a textbook case of film-induced tourism, one of my favorite things to write about, a phenomenon where viewers, enthralled by on-screen narratives, travel to real-life destinations tied to fictional events. But unlike pilgrimages to sites of historical truth, this is tourism into a simulacrum, a Baudrillardian copy with no original. The location exists because we believe in its existence as a meaningful touchpoint within the shared dreamscape of Romeo and Juliet. Here's another thing that's like a little bit of a liminal space of truth. Despite the deep association between Romeo and Juliet and the city of Verona, there is no evidence that William Shakespeare has ever stepped foot into Italy, let alone Verona itself. His depiction of Italian cities, Verona, Venice, Padua, likely came from secondary sources, such as translations of Italian novellas, popular travelogues, and the works of contemporaries. Romeo and Juliet was likely based on Arthur Brooke's 1562 poem, The Tragical History of Romeus and Juliet, itself a translation of earlier Italian sources like those by Luigi da Porto and Matteo Bandeo. So again, this is like a situation where media layers on top of media, constant iterations until something is new that we get to experience, which is a very postmodern concept. As Prince might say, samples on samples on samples.
Sampling is getting to the point where it's out of hand too. I mean, pretty soon we'll be sampling the sample.
Still, the Verona of Shakespeare's time, late 16th to early 17th century, was a prosperous city within the Venetian Republic, known for its military architecture, Renaissance urban planning, and rich intellectual culture. By the late 1500s, Verona had moved from its medieval layout into a more structured and fortified cityscape with elegant bridges, Roman relics, and a distinct blend of classical and Venetian influences. But for Shakespeare, Verona was more likely symbolic than geographic. Italy to Elizabethans represented a place of extremes: sunlit beauty, courtly love, familial violence, and Catholic decadence. The idea of Verona, rather than its material reality, was what mattered most. If Juliet's house is the site of love's beginning, then Juliet's tomb, located in the crypt of the former Capuchin monastery of San Francesco al Corso, is where the story ends. And during the 18th century onward, travelers began identifying this brick-lined, sunken tomb as Juliet's real resting place, despite the lack of historical evidence. During this era, Verona became a stop on the Grand Tour, and Romeo and Juliet, already popular in England and France, began to be treated as quasi-historical. Romantic travelers sought to have emotional experiences tied to literature. Juliet was increasingly regarded not as a fictional figure, but as a tragic young woman who actually lived and died for love. Literary figures such as Charles Dickens and Lord Byron visited the tomb and wrote about its vibe. Dickens noted its emptiness, but acknowledged the emotional pull. "It is better to believe," he wrote. The 19th century belief in Juliet's historical reality turned Verona into a kind of sentimental mecca, a setting not just for fiction, but for mourning and literary grief. Lord Byron even chipped off pieces of the tomb to bring back to his daughters and nieces. One reason Romeo and Juliet persists so vividly in cultural consciousness is its status as being one of the most widely taught books in global classrooms.
Where are you guys from?
I'm from Austria.
Austria?
Me too.
And what brought you to Verona?
We're just here on class, also with our class.
Oh, okay. Trip, yeah.
Yeah, we're just exploring the city and it's very popular.
Why do you think Romeo and Juliet is such a famous story even today?
Because of the love story, and
It's really dramatic.
yeah,
I don't know the word. Sehr wichtiger Punkt.
a very important.
Kind of like iconic.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes.
Especially in the United States and the United Kingdom, it is often the first or only Shakespearean text the young people encounter. Why this play? In part because educators see it as uniquely legible to adolescents. The themes of forbidden love, intergenerational conflict, rash decisions, and youthful rebellion create a perceived effective bridge between Shakespeare's language and the lives of teenagers. Teachers even frame the play not only as literature, but as an emotional experience, a text that can initiate students to Shakespeare through recognition of their own turbulent feelings. This widespread pedagogical use creates a kind of cultural priming. Students learn early on to associate Romeo and Juliet with romance, rebellion, and tragedy. And we can't help but wonder whether this glamorizes toxic love for impressionable young minds. Plus, because the play is so frequently adapted across decades and new mediums, it becomes not only read, but lived. The balcony and the tomb in Verona, then, aren't just tourist sites. They're sites of emotional memory, places where people go to recover something they were once taught to feel.
Hi. So what brought you to Verona?
I'm here with my husband. I hear it's a city of love, so that's why we're here. Myself, been married for about 15 years, so it's all about love.
Do you have any secrets for a long marriage like that?
Communication, transparency, trust, and that's it, pretty much.
My ears have not yet drunk 100 words of that tongue's utterance. Yet I know the sound. Art thou not Romeo, and a Montague?
Neither, fair maid, if either thee dislike.
The endurance of the myth owes much to its relentless reanimation by media. From Franco Zeffirelli's 1968 film with its lush Renaissance aesthetics and star-crossed youth, to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet in 1996, set in a decadent postmodern Verona beach. Each adaptation doesn't merely retell the story, but transforms its form and emotional tenor to reflect the trends of a new generation.
But soft, what light the yonder window breaks.
Oh, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
These retellings reframes the lover's story through the stylistic codes of each era, but always reinforce its central emotional core: passionate love, parental control, tragic miscommunication. The 2010 romantic film Letters to Juliet brought renewed attention to the Casa di Giulietta and the practice of writing letters to Juliet pinned to a wall beneath the balcony or mailed to Juliet in Verona, Italy. In the film, a young American stumbles across a decades-old unanswered letter and embarks on a quest to reunite lost lovers.
Are you gonna kiss me?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
While the Juliet Club in Verona had been answering letters since the 1930s, the film mainstreamed the idea that writing to Juliet could change your life and turned a quirky tradition into a global ritual. Today, thousands of letters pour in each year, and volunteers, called the Secretaries of Juliet, respond with empathy and romance, helping keep the myth alive in intimate, analog ways. Tourists don't only write letters or take photos reenacting balcony scenes, they also touch. Specifically, they touched the right breast of the bronze Juliet statue in the courtyard. The statue, created by sculptor Nereo Constantini in 1972, has become worn smooth in that one spot from decades of ritual groping. The act is said to bring in luck in love. On one hand, it echoes other rituals of tourist superstition, rubbing a Buddha's belly, tossing coins into the Trevi fountain. On the other, it suggests the weird eroticization and objectification of female icons in public spaces. I personally was not about to fully participate in this, even though I did want the luck. It's actually a little tragic in its own way. Juliet, forever 15 in the cultural imagination, is frozen in bronze, groped for luck, while her story is one of patriarchal violence, miscommunication, and death. The ritual underscores how tourist culture, especially in its most postmodern form, can turn tragedy into spectacle and spectacle into souvenir. When I interviewed visitors at Juliet's house, very few identified themselves as literary pilgrims. Most had not traveled to Verona because of Romeo and Juliet, but were instead passing through on broader trips to northern Italy. Still, they felt compelled to stop by. To me, these answers reveal how deeply Shakespeare's narrative has permeated global pop culture. Because such casual but widespread interests suggest that the Romeo and Juliet myth functions less as a magnetic destination and more as like an ambient cultural gravity, a story so embedded in culture that it lays latent within us, ready to be activated when the opportunity arises. As Henry Jenkins argues, participatory culture thrives on reinterpretation. Fans become co-authors through performance and interaction. In Verona, this participation becomes pilgrimage, however passive. And as Guy Debord established, we increasingly live in representations, not reality. Juliet's house and tomb are visited not because she actually lived, but because she died, again and again. And Juliet, whether in stone, bronze, or imagination, remains the most real, unreal girl in the world. Thanks for watching. Greetings from the Simulacrum. I hope you enjoyed this visit to Verona, Italy, and please let me know in the comments where you'd like me to decode next.